Welcome back to another Film Geek video. Today I am talking about 5 fun Halloween-themed films without Michael Myers. That's right, this film list is going to contain 5 Halloween-themed films that have 0 Michael Myers appearing in them. Despite the fact he is the undisputed king of Halloween, I want to focus on some other films that I find absolutely fun to watch around Halloween or on the most spookiest of nights of the year. So sit back, relax everybody, pop open your favorite beverage of choice because we're about ready to break down 5 fun Halloween-themed films without Michael Myers. Now folks, I forgot to mention that this is not a rankings video. This is in no way, shape, or form 5 film list or anything. These are just suggestions of films that I really enjoy that all have a very Halloween vibe behind them, and Michael Myers is nowhere to be found in these movies. Not that I dislike Mike by any means, I just think that he gets a lot of credit this time of the year, and I would like to talk about some films that don't have Michael Myers in them that appear on Halloween. So okay, we cool with that? Alright, so let's just get this party started with the first film in this list, and that is 1991's Ernest Scared Stupid. Ernest Scared Stupid was released October 11th, 1991, and it's directed by John R. Cherry III. It's starring Jim Varney and Eartha Kitt. Some of you might recognize Eartha Kitt's voice as the voice of Yzma from The Emperor's New Groove. Ernest Scared Stupid is the 4th film in the Ernest film series, and it's actually the last film in the series to be distributed by Touchstone Pictures. The 5th film in the series, Ernest Rides Again, was actually released independently by the director John R. Cherry III. This film was not a financial success, unfortunately, and it wasn't really a big hit with the critics either. Most critics felt that this film was too silly and goofy for adults to find funny, and that it was a little too scary for children with a lot of dark themes and jump scares to boot. So what is the plot of a movie that's too scary for kids and the humor is too goofy for adults? So this film takes place in a small town in Missouri, and there is this troll that's on the loose, and only Ernest can stop the troll. So it's pretty much the plot of any Ernest movie whatsoever. There is a bad guy, and Ernest needs to stop them. But the really cool thing about this bad guy is that the makeup effects in this film look amazing, and they probably should because these makeup effects are done by the Chiodo brothers. Now, if you're not familiar with that name, they're also the directors and creators of the Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Now, here's a fun fact. There's been a myth for a long time attached to the movie Ernest Scared Stupid that the costumes that were used in this film were repurposed clown costumes. Now, the brothers have come out and said, no, there were no troll costumes, or I'm sorry, there were no clown costumes used in the filming of this movie. There were only originally made props and so on. Although the effect when they take out one of the trolls, the spinny effect, is the same effect that they did use in Killer Clowns for Outer Space, so that is more of the connection to this film rather than these being reused costumes. All in all, guys, I have to say that this is a really fun, spooky good time for the entire family. Sure, there are some moments of scares and all, but they're nothing too awful outlandish, just a few little jump scares here and there. The makeup design does look pretty spooky, and there are some gross out moments with snot and boogers and things of that sort, but nothing that would be considered outright gory. All in all, if you just want to sit down and have a fun little movie at the end of the night when you take the kids out trick-or-treating, this is a perfect little film to have a wind down while you're going through all the candy that you think for some odd reason you think that somebody snuck in THC candy into your kids' candy. Guys, let me tell you right here, right now, alright? Nobody is putting THC candy in your kids' Halloween candy, period. I don't know if you've looked at the prices or not, but that shit's expensive. And Halloween candy's also like $30 a freaking bag too, so just be happy that your kid got a freaking Hershey bar. Now, if you're interested in checking out Ernest Scared Stupid, unfortunately, I couldn't find it on any streaming services at this time. It is for rent out there on most of the VOD platforms like Prime, Fandango, and such. So if you're interested in checking that out, unfortunately, you're gonna have to pay about $3.99 or so, but to be perfectly honest, it's worth that, to be perfectly honest. Alright, so getting out of the family fun realm and getting into some more, well, goofy but more adult horror, we have the 1986 film Trick or treat. Not trick or treat, trick or treat. Trick or Treat is directed by Charles Martin Smith and it's starring Mark Price and Tony Fields. Trick or Treat tells the story of the Rag Man, an outside loser metalhead who comes across a possessed album that happens to be possessed by the spirit of his favorite rock star, Sammy Kerr. Guys, this film is an absolute love letter to heavy metal, especially the 80s heavy metal. Now, I wasn't a massive fan of the more glam hair metal of that time period, but I did love the thrash stuff. The stuff that I got introduced into when I first found out about metal was Anthrax, Suicidal Tendencies, and of course the early days of Metallica. And metal has been one of those genres that has just stuck with me. Now, I've said before in other videos that I'm the kind of person that more or less listens to everything, and that is true. I like to listen to all different types of music, but I also like listening to different types of music during different time periods. Like I've said before, I enjoy country western music from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, a little bit of the 90s, but with heavy metal, I love heavy metal in almost every decade, and I still seek out new bands and different heavy metal bands of today. I'm not just stuck in one time period. I'm not just like, dude, thrash is the best stuff out there. Death metal, dude, freaking doom. I like to just kind of get a little bit of everything. I just really enjoy the genre, and this film is a heavy metal music lover's dream, especially if you're a fan of the stuff from the 80s. One of the big selling points of this film is its connection to heavy metal, yes, but it also has two of the founding fathers, I guess you could say. Well, I say one more of the hard rock genre, but definitely the Godfather, the Prince of Darkness, Ozzy Osbourne himself appears in this film, and so does Gene Simmons of Kiss. And you would think that these guys have a massive part to play in this film because they're right here on the cover, as you can see the cover of this movie, where it has both Ozzy Osbourne and Gene Simmons. So you're like, oh, and it says here at the top, starring. It's right there at the top, Gene Simmons, Ozzy Osbourne. Oh my gosh, dude, these guys show up for seconds in the film. Ozzy Osbourne plays, which is probably one of my favorite parts of the whole thing. He plays like this southern minister who's talking out of like, oh, metal is so bad, heavy metal is destroying the youth of today. And then Gene Simmons plays a local DJ that is actually kind of important to the story because he is the person who gives Ragman the album with the, possessed spirit, the evil spirit on it and such, but he does not have a starring role. But you would think by that cover he does. It's just the way this movie works. All in all, guys, this is a really fun film. It also boasts some amazing special effects, some great makeup jobs, and you know what? It really should have some great makeup because of who's in charge of that, and that is Kevin Yagher. Now, some of you might not know that name, but those of you who are fans of horror know this name because he is the person who came up with the Freddy Krueger look. He's famous for the Crypt Keeper, and he is also the creator of the Chucky doll and the puppeteer of Chucky in most of the Chucky films. So let's just say the guy knows his way around some makeup. This is a really fun Halloween film. Yes, it's called Trick or Treat, but it only really has some light Halloween theming. Everything does take place on Halloween night, kind of, because it's like midnight at Halloween, I want to say. So technically it's taking place after Halloween, but anyways, it has a little bit of Halloween theming, so it has a bit of a Halloween vibe, but to be perfectly honest, as Halloween vibes go, this film's kind of light. In fact, I feel like Ernest Scared Stupid has a much bigger Halloween feel to it than this movie does, but this is still an absolute blast. It's a really fun underdog, occultist slasher style film. It does have a very Freddy Krueger vibe to it. It has he travels around, but in this film he travels through electricity and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of elements from Freddy Krueger that are in this film, but then you throw in the heavy metal and all, and there's just a lot of fun to be had with this one. So if you're somebody who is not familiar with this movie, unfortunately it's going to be a little difficult to find. I could not find this movie on any streaming services. It doesn't seem to be anything that you can find for rent out there right now. So unless you own a physical copy of this film, you probably can't watch this one coming up on Halloween right now. But if you do, this one comes in DVD, Blu-ray, and there's even a 4K special edition. And I haven't upgraded because I just have some fond memories with this one. This was a really fun little find I found at a thrift store, and it's one of those that when I found this was a very hard to find movie. It wasn't something that was just readily available out there. The Blu-ray hadn't come out, special edition, all that jazz. This was pretty much all you could find in the VHS, and I found this one, and this is something I love, and I know it's a debate in the collector area and all that, and that is labels and stickers, but I had to leave this one on there because this was from some little podunk ma and pa video store, I want to say in Michigan. I googled the phone number to try to find out information on this. They closed in 2014, unfortunately. Let's see here. Video Experience. Yes, I actually looked it up because I was curious about it, but that's kind of one of the fun things about collecting used movies at thrift stores and such, is that you find these really weird little movies just out there that you're just not going to find if you're buying it brand new or something, with all these stickers and a really cool history. And then the fact that this movie's playable. God knows how many people have sat down and watched this movie, and there's not a scratch on this disc, so, you know, says something about the good old days of rental. But anyways, I digress. If you're looking for a fun movie to watch on Halloween, if you own this movie, if you can find a copy of this movie, check it out. It is a blast. Now, when it comes to picking a Halloween themed film, there's things I look for. Not only does it have to take place on Halloween, around Halloween, or so forth, it also has to have that really fun vibe to it. Something that I look for in a solid Halloween film is not just theming of Halloween, but I also like a good blend of horror and comedy. I like to have a good time for my Halloween horror films. Yes, I do enjoy getting the crap scared out of me, but I also like to have a good chuckle on the night too, because Halloween is all about fun, and so I want to have a spooky, scary, fun time. And so that's why this film has found itself on this list, 1999's Idle Hands. Idle Hands is directed by Rodman Flinder, and it's starring Devon Sawa, Seth Green, Eldon Henson, Jessica Alba, and Vinica A. Fox. Idle Hands tells the story of a stoner played by Devon Sawa, who wakes up one morning to find that his right hand has been taken over by a demon that possesses the laziest people in the world. And yep, this kid definitely fits the bill. Unfortunately, this film was a massive financial flop when it hit theaters, and a lot of that was due to events that were happening in the United States at the time that were completely out of the realm of this movie. It just kind of got caught up in some controversy and all. I'm not going to go into it, but that's just what happened. So the movie was pushed back to an April release date, causing it to miss the very important Halloween time that this movie should have been released in to kind of capture that vibe. This film is a really good blend of both comedy and horror, but I would say it's more of a 60-40. It does focus a lot more on the comedy aspects of the film and not so much of the horror. Most of the horror is relied on jump scares and gory reveals, and the gore in this film is pretty good. There are some good special effects and some pretty creative kills, but this movie does suffer from one thing, and that is you don't get to see the actual contact. And a lot of times what this film does when a kill comes up is they do the whole like pulling the person away, like let's say there's somebody under the bed and they grab them by the feet and they pull them under the bed, and then there's just like a bucket of blood that comes splattering out from underneath the bed, or someone gets pulled down to the ground by the hand and then all of a sudden blood splatters up on the wall. I mean, it really is a little bit on the tame side when it comes to the gore in this film, because I really think that this is the kind of movie that could just go absolutely balls to the walls with just craziness. The cast in this film is also outstanding. Seth Green and Eldon Henson played Devon Sawa's best friends, who for no good reason other than laziness get turned into zombies after they're killed by Devon Sawa's character, and then just kind of hang out with him for the rest of the film, smoking weed and telling jokes. But the chemistry between these two is outstanding, and most of the lines that those guys have are all improv when they're just kind of hanging out together and talking, so that's also just another fun level to the absolute camaraderie that was happening on filming in this film. So there's a lot of chemistry between this cast, a lot of great humor, a lot of great horror. The Halloween aspect of this film is pretty solid because, and here's my attachment to Michael Myers, This was filmed in the same neighborhood as the 1978 John Carpenter Halloween film. So yeah, this definitely has a Halloween vibe to it. And you don't know why you feel that way. Yes, there's jack-o'-lanterns all over the place in the neighborhood, but there's something else and you just can't quite understand why you feel so Halloweeny in this town. Well, there's your reason. The most famous Halloween film was filmed in the same location as this movie. All in all, guys, I would have to say that if you're just looking for a bloody fun good time on Halloween, this is the type of film that you need to check out. And if you're curious to check this one out, well, don't worry, it is streaming out there on Pluto TV with commercials. Plus, it's readily available on plenty of VOD services, so if you don't want to watch commercials, you can pay the $2.99, $3.99 fee. Next up on my list of fun Halloween-themed films with no Michael Myers, we're going back into the family fun realm. And this was actually a holiday treat around my own household, and that is 2006 Monster House. Monster House is directed by Gil Kenan, and check out this crazy big cast. Steve Buscemi, Catherine O'Hara, Fred Willard, Jason Lee, Kevin James, Nick Cannon, John Heder, Kathleen Turner, and country western star and classic character actor Sheb Wooley. Monster House tells the story of three young teen kids who find out that the spooky old house across the street is actually a living, breathing monster that eats people. Monster House is a beautifully animated film that just bleeds Halloween. This film uses 3D motion capture of real actors. So these were people that were in those suits with all the dots and ping pong balls and such on their face and on their body, so it can capture the movement of their face and the movement of their body. And then 3D animated figures were put over the bodies that gave the film a much more natural style movement and also a lot more, expressive features. Now, this is something in its time period was revolutionary, but I do feel that CG animation has really gotten to the point where they don't need to use tricks like this to get that same natural jerky type of movement. I feel like a movie like K-pop Demon Hunters is a good example of using a lower frame rate that actually captures the same type of animation that this movie did, with a much more natural, fluid type of movement that makes our characters look more like 3D models that are coming to life rather than 3D rendered animated figures. The color palette of this film is also unbelievably beautiful. It looks like autumn throughout this entire thing, and the other thing about this film, being that it was motion captured, it also has a very unique camera usage. A lot of the cinematography in this film is still filmed like a classic horror film, because that's what this movie is at its core. It is a classic horror film. This movie has legitimate scares, it has legitimate suspense and thriller moments. This is a movie that will get a couple jumps out of little kids in the room, and that is great. The movie also uses humor to kind of cut things up a little bit, so it's not just scaring the pants off of everybody, and the humor also does land. This film also just brings out the Halloween kid in me. Now, the film does take place in 1983, which was peak Halloween time in my lifetime, and this movie is so a love letter to that time period. And I'm not saying that this is, again, one of those movies that blow you away with Rubik's Cube's colors and neon lights. This is another film that just recreates in an animated fashion that time period. And it also does some really creative usage with the idea of the spooky old house. Most films in this genre, the spooky old house is a haunted house that they have to go through, and there's ghosts and goblins. In this movie, the house itself is the monster. Now, in the third act, yes, they go into it. You do get your haunted house vibe to this movie, but at its core, it is a monster film of a spooky old house, and I just thought that was outstanding. I love that old vibe that this movie has, because I think everybody to this day still has that one house in their neighborhood that has that spooky old house vibe. And watching this movie is just definitely going to bring out the kid in you. And this is one of those films that the entire family could sit down and watch and have a lot of fun. And make sure you do stay for the credits. There are some reveals at the end of the credits that take some of the horror away and make it a little bit lesser blow for some of the younger viewers. So all in all, guys, this is a great time. So if you have not seen the movie Monster House, this is a great opportunity. And if you are a member of Peacock, you can watch it right now, streaming without without commercials for free. Well, maybe you do have the commercial plan. I don't know your stuff, man, but you can find this right now on Peacock if you're a member. I don't know if I know they have some stuff on there that's for free, so check it out. But this is a really fun movie to watch on Halloween with the whole family. Our fifth and final film on this fun Halloween list is Halloween 3: Season of the Witch. Hey, I said no Michael Myers. I didn't say that we weren't gonna have a Halloween movie on this list. Okay, so if you're not familiar with Halloween 3: Season of the Witch, then you don't know the joke I'm going for here, and that is that it's the only film in the Halloween series that does not feature Michael Myers, and in my opinion, has the best Halloween vibe out of the entire series. And that could just be for personal reasons. We're gonna dive into that as I talk about this film. Halloween 3: Season of the Witch is directed by Tommy Lee Wallace, and it's starring Tom Atkins, Stacey Nielkin, and Dan O'Herlihy. Kids all over America want to get their hands on the newest masks from Silver Shamrock: the Witch, the Pumpkin, and the Skeleton. There is some kind of strange hypnotic power that these masks have over kids, because every child in America is craving these masks, and one doctor is going to get to the bottom on why these Halloween masks are so damn popular. Okay, so yeah, maybe this movie isn't the best horror film, okay? Yes, you can argue the fact that this film is riddled with plot holes, one of which is being, why in the hell are these witches doing what they're doing? Yes, that's the story here. These masks are possessed, or they're being used as a conduit by witches to turn children into what seem to be piles of crickets, lizards, snakes, creepy crawly, mucky kind of things. And no one knows why they're doing this, just because evil. Now here's the whole thing, alright? This movie is actually very personal to me, and it is the first movie that I have seen in the Halloween franchise. I didn't start with Michael Myers. I started with Season of the Witch, and that was because this film came out in 1982, and I was 7 years old, and I remember seeing the trailer for this film, and I thought, oh my god, that is the scariest thing I've ever seen. It took the whole idea of something so pure and innocent, like trick-or-treating and wearing a fun little mask, pretending you're somebody that you're not, and then killing them because they're just trying to have fun and get some candy. There was no reason for this, and I found that absolutely horrifying, and I wanted to see this movie so bad, but I was 7. There's no way they would let me into a movie theater then, so I turned to my next best thing, bugging the ever-living hell out of my father for a solid year until the movie showed up on video that following Halloween. So my dad went and rented the movie, and this was the rule in the household when it came to watching R-rated movies. Mom and dad had to watch it first so they could see if there were scenes that we had to close our eyes for, you know, when they might have shown some kind of hoo-hoo or something like that. We had to close the eyes. So that's kind of how this worked. Mom and dad watched the movie. If it seeked their approval, I got to see the film. I just had to close my eyes when hoo-hoo popped up. So anyways, my dad contacted my childhood best friend's mom and let him know what was going on. Hey, I got this movie for him to watch. We came over, we had a sleepover right around Halloween, and we watched this movie. And guys, it scared the ever-living hell out of me. I don't believe we slept that night. And the entire time, we're just sitting there, and my dad was finding this just absolutely hysterical. And the scene where the kid puts the mask on his head and gets turned into snakes and snails and puppy dog tails, I could hear my dad just giggling back there while myself and my best friend are just holding ourselves, shivering with fear watching that scene. Because I had never seen something like this before. Normally in movies, kids always get away. Kids are always safe, but here this movie's breaking all the freaking rules. This film is very important to me in my development as a horror fan. This is the one. This is the blueprint. This is the film that created my love of this genre, and in all honesty, I think it was also my love for Halloween as a holiday. I had so much fun and so much fear in me that night. It made me realize why we watch these movies. Because sometimes, guys, being scared is fun. And being scared on Halloween is always fun. And so there you have it, guys. My list of 5 amazingly fun family-ish films. Okay, a couple of family films and some others you probably don't want the kids to see. Fun Halloween films that you can check out October 31st, Halloween. So thanks again, guys, for checking out the Film Geek. If you liked what you saw here today, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, and give me the old thumbs up so I know you like what you're seeing. And if there's one more thing you could do, folks, that is keep watching movies. You know I'm gonna.